What is the farthest you've gone in a game of truth or dare? Story 1. And 3 girls were all in the hot tub at this chick's house, and I get dared to go mash my junk up against her parents' bedroom window. Granted, it's like 1 a.m. and the whole house is completely dark, so I thought it'd be no big deal. I get out of the hot tub, run over the window, drop my suit, and smash my junk up against the window for a few moments. Then in the reflective light of the pool, I catch a glimpse of her parents sitting right inside the window, watching us from inside. They didn't even blink, just watched me. It was freaking terrifying like I saw them for a split freaking second as the light passed over the glass, just inches away from my mashed up junk on the other side of the window. Something from a horror movie. I gasped and ran back to the hot tub, got back in, and just sat there in complete silence. A couple minutes later, her dad comes outside laughing, hands me a beer, and then reminisces with all of us for a minute about the crazy shit he did when he was a kid. I've never felt a shock like I did when I saw her faces. It still haunts me sometimes, but it all turned out better than expected. Story 2. Me and my best friend used to play this all the time, but he would always find ways to get out of meeting dares. For example, I dared him to run around the block naked, so he took a toy block into the bathroom, stripped and ran around it. Things like that. One night I got tired of it, so I decided to dare him to run down to the end of the street naked and to actually do his dares for once. He agreed, but only on the condition that I accept his dare to stand on the front lawn naked. We agreed, so we both grabbed towels, stripped down, and went outside. On the count of 3, we both dropped our towels. He ran down the street, and I stood there, looking around like a very skinny pale idiot. After about 25 seconds, I hear what sounds like a yell, and the next thing I know, he's running back as fast as he can, screaming that I need to get inside. And fast turns out, as soon as he reached the corner, a cop car driven past. Needless to say, we didn't venture out for a while, and the game was over. Story 3. When I was around 8th grade, my friends and I used to play Truth or Dare with my sister and her friends who were just a grade below us. We'd play strip Truth or Dare, meaning if you didn't do a dare, you had to shed layers. This would lead to some pretty hardcore dares that were actually performed by the end of the night. This one girl, who I had a crush on at the time, definitely took the cake. In the most outrageous dare, she was stripped to just underwear, and any dare she didn't do meant permanent nudity for the rest of the night. Naturally, me and my buddy Derek would just take a ping-pong paddle up her rear end. Needless to say, we never used the paddle after that. Story 4. While in the hot tub with 3 chicks, I ended up diving for an ice cube between this girl's boobs and had to get it before it melted. I'm proud to say, mission accomplished. Edit to all those saying I should have taken my time, blah blah blah. I take my truth or dare very seriously, and to the naysayers, I can assure you, no one lies on the internet. No one. Story 5. On the ride back home on a city train, me and 10 other people got into a truth or dare match. One guy ended up eating a spider web. A girl drank a Coke out of a trash can. I had to pour 5 bottles of water down my pants. Another girl had to put my sock in her mouth. One guy had to strip naked. A girl had to do the worm across our entire section of the train. One guy had to put his entire body inside of a trash can for 5 minutes. One girl, while walking back, had to lick a street puddle. Another guy had to pole dance for 5 minutes on the train ride. A girl had to lick the train. And looking back, frankly, I think I got the safest dare. Story 6. After a late-night movie run, some friends and I decided to play Truth or Dare at the deserted mall. We were on the 2nd level above a play place, and they dared me to jump into the ball pit. I thought it'd be fine, because the jump was no more than 15 feet, and I'd be cushioned for my fall. They actually removed them every night, and I had the ugliest bruise on my ass for weeks. Another time, I went skinny dipping in a house that was supposedly still for sale. Somebody had already moved in, and he was a pastor. Fun. Story 7. I was dared to keep 2 ice cubes inside my panties until they melted. Well, I shifted, and one of the ice cubes went up inside me. You know how sometimes if you look really cold ice, it'll stick to your tongue, and you end up tearing your tongue a bit? Yeah, I was raw for at least a week after that. Story 8. We dared my friend to eat grass and say, "I'm a moo cow" on camera. My friend had pissed on that same patch of grass just a minute earlier. At that same party, I was dared to run out into the middle of the road, naked with a stuffed teddy bear, and pretend to screw it, while shouting "I'm F timesing F timesing bear" at the top of my lungs. It was a fun night. Story 9. Playing in detention in high school, there were old CRT monitors sitting on the table. At the back of the room, I was dared to get up, carry one to my desk, and when asked who I was doing, reply, "I need to check my email." I was promptly informed that that computer won't work, and told to put it back and sit down. It was a good attention. Story 10. When I was in college, a whole bunch of my friends and I rented a cottage. For the weekend, we decided after playing a few drinking games to play Truth or Dare. The dares were pretty lame, and so I decided it was time to kick it up a notch. I began dishing out dares, like 2 girls make out. Girls get into bikinis and hop in the hot tub, which was busted, so the water was ice cold, and I was pulling crazy troops out of people. Eventually, it was my turn to be Truth or Dared, and to be a good sport, I chose Dare. The revenge was you get a makeover with eyeliner, blush, lipstick, and earrings. The girls will cover you with lipstick kisses, and you must go home with this onto your overprotective girlfriend. Needless to say, it was an awkward drive home from that weekend, and the girlfriend was not impressed. That was the point in our relationship that told me it was not going to work. I was young and naive to put up with her jealous personality as a fault of my own. Months later, I would find out she cheated on me twice during our relationship. Story 11. 22nd birthday party. There was a game someone had brought that was more or less Truth or Dare, involving cards and a dice and whatever. Perhaps it was called Taboo or something. Not sure. Anyways, the cute girl that I just met tagged along with another friend and got the card for a dare, daring her to kiss the person to her right, which was me. She basically jumped on me, straddled my crotch, and started snogging me. I wound up spending most the night inside my house, inside her best 22nd birthday present ever. Story 12. In high school, I got dared to make myself pass out during class, and then once I woke up, tried to remember to scream out, "Not this again," and run out of the room. All they had to do was tell the sub that I fainted and try to get a crowd around me. Unfortunately, these friends hadn't seen anyone pass out before, so they thought I died, and they started freaking out. That got the sub scared, so she called the principal. When I awoke, I had no idea where I was, but thankfully, I remembered the first time I passed out and told the principal. Ah crap, it happened again, and I was escorted out of the room to the nurse's office. Parents scalded, yada yada, and the next day, I had won the respect of the kids in the class. Once they found out that it was Plan D, and the kids that dared me gave me, like $5 each. This was a biology class, and apparently, the sub never subbed at our school again. No one got in trouble for what happened either, and I got to leave school real early, with around $25 more in my pocket. Good day. Story 13. A few friends and I were in this mini hot tub in the middle of winter. It had just snowed, so we all thought it was the ideal place to have some drinks and hang out. Pretty far into the game, I was dared to strip down and run around the street naked in the snow. I followed through, and it's actually one of the funnest memories I have of my youth. For some reason, the clearest memory of that night for me is how blue the snow looked at night because of the full moon. Story 14. So I went to a Catholic secondary school, and we went on a retreat to this matter house in the country, run by some finny religious people. Needless to say, they were a lot of us who really weren't into the whole Jesus malarkey. So while we had reflection and meditation time, we decided to play Truth or Dare. It started out pretty tame, dare you to kiss her, who touch each other's no-no area, but eventually we got bored. Now there was this one girl on the trip who was really religious, always telling us to praise the day, shit like that. She was in the room next to us at the time. She preferred to pray alone. My friend looks at me with these sadistic eyes and says, "I dare you to rest your junk on her head while she's praying, and say, well, whilst you're down there, love." Everyone stared at me. I could see the mix of fear and excitement in their eyes. Screw what I thought. I stood up and marched into that room. I was sweating like a priest in a playground at that point, and she didn't hear me coming. I dropped my trousers, whipped out my trouser snake, holding it in my hand. I slowly lowered it on top of her head. Then in my best Cockney voice, I said what had to be said and lowered my dong, resting it just on top of her. At first I thought she would scream, hit me, or call down some divine intervention. Instead she turns around slowly, looks up at me, looks confused and kind of shocked, and then reached out, grabbing by the hose pipe, stood up and told me God would forgive me, spun me around, and pushed me out the door. It was a very strange trip. Story 15. It was 7th grade, and me and my group of buddies had sort of a small but somewhat friendly rivalry with these 8th graders. They would always do shit to us, and we would get them back too. Well, one day, it was raining, so we were just all sitting around the cafeteria during phys ed, since we didn't have an actual indoors gym, and we were playing Truth or Dare. When it came around to be my turn, they dared me to go up to the table that our 8th grade rivals were sitting at and pretend to give roll to an invisible d times k while standing up on top of the table and making a moaning noise. And the consequence for not doing our dare was that two people would hold us down while the rest got to each take a single turn, stalking us in the nuts. So I run up to the table and start blowing while moaning, and I guess the swiftness and sadness of it all stunned one of the 8th graders, and it triggered them to instantly sock me in the face as her first reaction. I cannot even begin to tell you how many people were laughing at me, or for how long. Story 16. My friend dared me to put an icy hot on my junk. At the time, I didn't know what an icy hot was, so obviously, I had no idea what was going to happen to me. This all took place in the middle of winter in Montana, and the end result was me running outside and stuffing the entirety of my junk into a snowdrift, which actually ended up making it worse. I was pretty much done with truth or dare after that. Story 17. When I was in 6th grade, I was dared to let these 3 girls tie me, spread eagle to the bed clothes, and do anything they wanted to me for 10 minutes. I thought they would do something sexy. Instead, they spent 10 minutes dropping different objects onto my junk from varying heights. One girl dropped a heavy tape dispense on me, which made me cry. Story 18. Once, I was playing with 3 girls, including me and 3 guys. We dared 2 of the guys to eat dried hot peppers without any water. 2 turns later, one of them got dared to go down on me. It was the worst experience of my life. Story 19. I took a girl's pants off with my teeth, and I'm still surprised to this day that I was able to accomplish it. This was in middle school, and some asshat the party took a picture of it, and it got circulated around school, but not to the end result of cool points, instead to the result of a parent-teacher conference with my dad. There was a whole lot of this behavior is highly inappropriate, and we are worried about the path your son is going down. And my dad gave the usual, "I see, thank you for bringing this to my attention," and then he high-fived me when we left afterwards. Story 20. Truth or dare commenced in the normal fashion with silly dares such as eating odd concoctions, doing embarrassing dances, or calling crushes. All was well until someone decided that it would be a grand idea to dare me to get naked in the woods. In the spirit of fun, I obliged. Of course, I knew they wouldn't take my clothes. That would be expected, but what I did not anticipate was my friend's mother coming out to check on us. She remained unaware of our mischief, only because my friend ran up, claiming she had a sunburn and required aloe vera immediately. Story 21. So way back when, in middle school, I was at a slumber party. We went out to eat, and it was an all-night truth or dare. As a backstory, I was super into this one guy, and he was at the party. So when dare came around to me, I hoped for something to happen. Like in the movies, nope, all of my blocking friends had me eat a flower, rolling the snow in only my undergarments, and pick my nose while screaming, "I'm in love with a stripper." He never talked to me again. Worst wing women ever. Story 22. My hippy-dippy college dorm made everyone play truth or dare as an icebreaker activity. The first day of my sophomore year, I wound up making out with everyone in the dorm. 18 people, mooning a professor, pissing off the library balcony, and streaked through the dining hall. While parents were still around, we weren't allowed to do that as an official activity anymore after that. Another time in my house, we made my roommate give a detailed analysis of how he'd do every person in the house. He promptly did. It was a bit uncomfortable, but that's the point, I guess. Story 23. As 7th grade girls, we all felt the need to rebel a little. Everyone wanted to receive the dirty dares, but no one wanted to hand them out. So I got the bright idea to write them all down, and then draw the dares out of a bag. That way no one would know who came up with the dare. We had a blast that night, and soon after, everyone fell asleep. But what we didn't know was that my father had gone downstairs in the middle of the night and found the bag of dares. Needless to say, he kept them, and they will most likely resurface on my wedding day. Story 24. When I was in the 11th grade, I went to a party, and for some reason, people were playing spin the bottle with a bottle of bourbon. Good stuff too. Every time someone got selected, they'd turn the lights off until after they had kissed for their allotted period of time. So I decided to hop in. When it came around my turn, I spun the bottle. My partner was selected. The lights go out, and I just grabbed the bottle, snuck out before anyone noticed. I quite enjoyed that bottle of bourbon. Story 25. During a high school slumber party at my parents' place, I was dared to go into a closet and get naked. I knew my clothes would be long gone, but went with it anyways. I got into the closet, handed them my clothes, and pretended to be surprised when they were not returned. Then my father started down the steps. My clothes were not returned at this point, and instead everyone rushed back to the couch, leaving me all alone. I tried to listen to the conversation from within the closet, but couldn't hear very well. So finally, when I heard my dad say, in what sounded like a very very angry voice. Where is she? I decided to grab a sleeping bag that I found in the closet and hop into it, jumping out of the closet screaming. It was only a dare. I later found out that my friends had all covered from me quite sufficiently until I blew my cover. Story 26. Let me tell you the story of a band camp dare gone wrong. This kid Oliver was a sort of stuck-up rich kid on the floor of campers. At summer camp, he had his own room and all the latest trendy things for a 12 or so year old in the early 80s. There were 6 of us kids to a floor, and a guidance counselor for each floor, as well as a shared living space and a pair of bathrooms. Our living guidance counselor was an awesome and gigantic block boxer from some South American nation. Training and working during his summer break, I went to Camp Pat in San Diego. Way back when it was in the theaters, my parents had shipped me off because I was into skating on computers, and they got to spend some time alone for a few months while not dealing with me hurting myself every few days applying for Darwin Award. It was a great deal for them. A few months into camp, our counselor was out for the night and it was late. We were alone, playing Truth or Dare. There were a few kids from the other floors in our common area with us, and it gets to Oliver. He chose Dare quite poorly. In hindsight, most of us have grown to dislike him by then, and we all settled to dare him to stick a fork in an electrical socket, which he did with zero reluctance. He picked up the fork, walked over to the wall, and jammed it into the socket as hard as he could. He made contact. He shook like a grand mal seizure. It seemed almost cartoon-like at the time. His hand smoked, burnt, and created such a stench that it's hard to forget, like burned hair and buttery bacon mixed with something metallic. After a few very long seconds, he was able to let go, but who knows how long it really was. Time wasn't really working right then, but all of us were afraid to touch him until he fell over. He was okay, I guess as okay as he could be given the circumstances. His hand and shirt were smoking. His hand was a freak show. A couple of his fingers seemed melted together. You could see the bones. Shit was dripping off it in pots. From what I could remember, before we were able to wrap it with towels, I have no clue what happened to him. The counselors from the other floors noticed the commotion and sent us to our rooms. The ambulances came and his belongings left. A few days later, we were sent to the beach and had a barbecue, along with a bunch of silly distractions to forget about it, although I'm pretty sure it was more of a corporate apology to the camp counselors for putting them through witnessing that. Us kids really didn't know what had just happened. I hope he's all right. I mean, you're pretty indestructible at that age, but that was one messed up hand. Story 27. I suppose sometimes things seem like good ideas at the time, other times, even going into it, you've realized it was a terrible idea, and the only reason you picked Dare was because you had some secrets you really did not want to share. Anyways, your friends want answers, because hey, what's more fun than occasionally dropping a cryptic line about something you've done or something you know? So since they want answers, they decide let's make the Dare something crazy. Make it crazy enough, and he'll be too afraid to pick Dare again. But I guess what everyone's probably really interested in is the part where I had to cross-dress for an entire day at school. I won't go too far into the details, but 2 of the girls in the group, both ex-girlfriends, actually expanded a rather large effort in wardrobes, makeup, and using a wig, along with other similar things, from the drama department at our school to help with the look. During that day, I was called to the principal's office to have a conversation with him about the situation. When he asked why I was dressed like that, and I said it was because of a deal I had made, the principal released me back to class, saying essentially that he was proud that his students stuck to their word, and I'm proud to say that even after that embarrassment, I still never picked Truth, even after the duct tape straitjacket that came in the next game. This next portion of the video is going to be a rapid-fire segment dedicated to all answers, too short to fit into the bulk of the video, but too good to be left out. So here we go. Rapid-fire story 1. My parents told me my existence was based on a Truth or Dare game. Rapid-fire 2. I stripped down to just my socks and shoes and ran all the way down the street screaming Sarah Connor. Rapid-fire 3. Snow angels, naked. Rapid-fire 4. Fondled a boob, and later a friend pooped in the forest naked. Rapid-fire 5. Snorted a crushed cinnamon Altoid. Never ever do this. The pain was so unbearably intense. Rapid-fire 6. I made someone lick a school's doorknob. I didn't think he would get as sick as he did. Rapid-fire 7. I would take a bar of deodorant. Had to get my stomach pumped. Rapid-fire 8. F times K all the sexual answers. I once dared a friend of mine to lick a jellyfish. She did. It stung. Rapid-fire 9. There was a guy who was dared to eat a slug by his friends. If he did, they would give him $50 each. He just came out of the hospital the other week. After 2 years, he is currently learning how to talk again. Slugs are no joke. Rapid-fire 10. An obese ginger man ran through a fire naked. Well, that's it for today. Don't forget to comment your story down below, and like this video if you enjoyed it. Let me know if this rapid-fire segment was good, because it's something that I'm just playing around with. But either way, hope you'll have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.